Good afternoon, Packers fans. Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV, coming to you live on a Saturday because we got some pretty significant news from the Green Bay Packers announcing that Romeo Doubs, second-year wide receiver, has been suspended for one game due to conduct detrimental to the team. Seems Bill Huber's reporting sounds like it's pretty spot on as far as Romeo not showing up to Thursday and Friday's practices due to dissatisfaction with his place in the offense, in the passing attack. I'm sure some details on that will come out as we go along here in the next couple of days, but certainly feels like uh, Dobbs went AWOL, and the Packers have seemingly gotten to a place where they feel somewhat confident, according to Tom Silverstein, that they will be resetting on Monday and hopefully moving forward with Dobbs into the future. I know there's rampant speculation already online about potential trades, cutting him, moving on. Doesn't feel like any of that is going to happen, but I know Jonathan Jones reported that teams had called the Packers throughout this week once they got word of what was happening. Maybe some seeds planted by an agent. I don't know. How else would you know what was going on in Green Bay, Wisconsin? And the Packers basically shut the door on all those potential scenarios, saying they had no intention of trading Dobbs. It's going to be fascinating to see how things move forward on both sides here. Obviously, we have recent precedents with Jair Alexander being suspended one game last season, uh, although that was, from all reports, a cumulative thing, things that have been going on all season behind closed doors, and then the action in Carolina ultimately essentially forcing Brian Gutekunst to make the decision to suspend Jair. Whereas this feels very different. This is a young man who clearly feels slighted, either rightly or wrongly, and simply did not show up to work for 2 days in a row. The Packers having to go so far as to send representatives to his home where they found him after not having any communication from him. And look, I understand that this is going to be somewhat loaded conversation. People feel pretty strongly one way or the other. My thing is always, if it's a personal thing, and that's what the Packers labeled it as, I always say it's personal. That's with the player. And traditionally, usually, when it is, a guy excused from practice for personal reasons, it is either very, very, very good, i.e., like the birth of a child or something like that, or it's very, very, very bad. A family member has passed, something tragic has occurred, and either way, you want to give the player his room. This feels very different. And I don't know. I know I myself, as a fan, am pretty conflicted because it certainly feels like Romeo quit on the team because of his dissatisfaction with whatever was presented in Wednesday's practice, which he did attend. And then Thursday, he literally just doesn't show up. Now, I would love to hear from Romeo or anyone connected to Romeo, his version of events, though again, it would seem like whatever is out there publicly certainly seems to have traction given the Packers' actions this afternoon. They don't do this if there is something more of greater weight, greater importance, mitigating circumstances. It does feel like Romeo just flat out quit on his team. And that's incredibly unfortunate. My one other note before I get to your comments and questions here, I've seen a lot of people online, and I mean a whole boatload of folks, talking about how this is so, quote, out of character for Romeo. I will only say we have no idea who these guys are off the field once they leave the building. You have no clue what a guy is like, what his personality is. Yes, there is the version that we see on camera, even in the locker room and talking to the media. We still have no clue who these humans are when they are away from the building. And that's not to cast aspersions on Romeo. That is just a fact. We have no idea who anybody is outside of the building. There's a version of them, the football player that the public sees, but once they leave the building and become themselves, so to speak, we don't know what they're like. We don't know who they are. We don't know what drives them. We have no clue. And again, that's not a positive or a negative. That's just the way it is. So I just hope people remember that next time something feels, quote, out of character for someone. This is a lesson I've tried to teach my daughters, actually, many, many times when talking about celebrities. I mean, we see a very public version of the person. We don't know the person. in any way, shape, or form. With that said, how are we all doing? Happy Saturday. Hope you're all doing well. Got a couple super chats here. Eric starting us off. Thanks, buddy. Mental health is real. I hope it's a blip. I hope so too. I hope this is just a moment in time and not something that takes root and festers and becomes a major problem. But certainly, whatever is causing or whatever caused Romeo to legit just not show up must be pretty serious. And I don't know until we hear from him what is driving that, what the reasoning is. But yes, hopefully it is just a blip. Jerry, thanks for the super chat. Fuck's sake. I mean, that does kind of capture it. I will admit, last night, getting into bed right before I'm about to hit the pillow, this broke Bill Huber's story. And I, made a quick video and what have you. But there was a very real moment where I was like, man, I'm getting too old for this. Man, 10:30 on a Friday night, just trying to get to bed. And this comes out. I don't know, man. It does feel like, that Romeo Doubs is certainly being driven by some dissatisfaction that I would love to get some illumination on. But right now, we're flying blind, no doubt about it. Christopher says he just had a moment listening to the wrong people. Hope it's a lesson learned for him. I mean, that's an assumption. We don't know that. I mean, I assume you're alluding to an agent or maybe friends, family, what have you. We don't know, man. He may have just done this all on his own. And maybe the agent finds out as it's happening, or the friends and family do. We don't know. And again, that's why I would love to hear from Romeo at some point. Jason, what's up, man? Thanks for the super chat. Are you worried about this affecting Jordan's chemistry with the wide receivers? Like if Jordan starts forcing it to Doubs just to make him happy, or is Jordan not that kind of guy? It's a very, very apt question, Jason. I know things will be looked at through a certain prism, lens, what have you, through the public's eyes for the next few games. I don't think there's any doubt, especially the next game that Romeo participates in, which is hopefully next week. I think that's only human nature, right? But it sure feels like, and again, that's all it is a feeling, but it sure feels like most of the guys in that locker room are on the same page. Although it is funny to go back and read some of the quotes from Romeo himself this summer talking about the need to set aside ego and be all about the team. Well, I don't know how skipping a practice 2 days in a row is doing that or in service of that. That's just me. Alan asks, Nags, Doubs had 15 targets across the 2 Love games. If his involvement or role is the problem, I don't get it. I don't think it's about, and this is pure speculation, obviously, but I don't think it's about things that have occurred, though I'm sure that has kind of built up over the time where we haven't seen him get a ton of red zone opportunities this season, which he had plenty of last year. But I think it's much more about the fact that coming into Wednesday's practice, knowing you're not going to have Christian Watson, whatever was presented game plan wise in that practice, I suspect did not meet Romeo's liking. And again, all I can do is guess. But Wednesday is the day you install the game plan. And everyone was talking about the fact that Watson was going to be out. And there was a lot of noise around Wicks getting more involved. And then the day after they install that game plan, Romeo goes AWOL. I don't think it was about things that have already occurred this season in these games that he's played already. I'm sure he's been frustrated at times with a backup quarterback not having as probably a robust role in the passing game as he has in years past. But I think whatever happened on Wednesday is the catalyst driving this thing. Ken, thanks for being a Kev the G Club member. It's Overreaction Saturday for so many of the fan base, LOL. He's been, to date, an outstanding teammate, and no one has the details. He's 24 years old. Let's see how coach and front office deal with it. Kent, that's why we're here. We've seen how they've dealt with it. They've suspended him for conduct detrimental. I'm all for taking a break and pumping the brakes and seeing how it plays out, which is why I didn't go live last night. I suspected we'd get a little bit more information. And what we found is that, to Tom Silverstein's reporting, there hasn't been a need to go off the deep end, so to speak. But as we've seen here, with the Packers' action of suspending him for a game for conduct detrimental, That tells you the Bills' reporting is pretty spot on. Again, we don't have all the details, but you can make an informed kind of view here. And again, I would love to hear from Romeo. No question about it. Really learn what's driving this from his point of view. But, at some point, you can start to talk about it. It's okay. And yes, you're right. A lot of people are overreacting in the sense of cutting him, trading him, what have you. And I get that. It's a fan knee jerk thing. They want to quote unquote solve a problem instantly. And they probably are jumping the gun in that regard. But I understand it. I get it. You're a passionate fan of the team and someone quit on the team essentially for a couple days. I don't think, that's reprehensible behavior by the fans, although probably a little knee jerk, no doubt. Spencer, am I out of line that my initial reaction was, we have a game to win Sunday? Spencer, you're not out of line. That's the probably opposite of what we were just talking about as far as people being knee jerk and wanting them cut or traded, what have you. I completely appreciate the response because they do have a game to win on Sunday, and it's going to be with the guys who were at practice all week. Hopefully they come home with a W. What else we got here, folks? We got John Simitovich. What's up, man? This is interesting timing with DA requesting a trade. Yeah, I've seen a lot of dot connecting in regards to Devontae Adams. I seriously doubt this has anything to do with that. Now, I'm not going to say never. I'm not going to say it's impossible. Lord knows Nagler's never right, but I would be very surprised if the two were related. Jonathan Hale, what's up, man? I was thinking about the red zone opportunities as well. I don't think we've been good in the red zone period, but I don't know the numbers. Yeah, he certainly hasn't been targeted at the same rate he has been in the past. And they haven't been good in the red zone. And I'm sure maybe that might, again, be part of the, kindling on this fire, so to speak, of, we've gone 4 games. I've gotten limited opportunities in the red zone. We're not scoring when we're down there. Start giving me some fucking opportunities. I mean, it could be as simple as that, right? But again, I don't think it's that one thing. I think it's probably something that's built along the time. But I do think that at least plays a role. What is else? We got Nathaniel. What's going on, man? Looks like somebody's got Javon Walker syndrome. Ooh, what a callback. What a callback. Matt, that is an interesting question. Goody's statement has put it all on the player. Where do the coaches fit in here, if at all? Let's look at the statement, shall we? I've got it here. Let's take a look at what Brian Gutekunst said in the Packers release. Quote, unfortunately, we had to make the difficult decision to suspend Romeo for this week's game. His decisions and actions during the week negatively impacted the team and required us to take this action. While we are certainly disappointed, we are confident that we will be able to move forward in a positive manner. Romeo is a valuable member of our team, and we look forward to welcoming him back next week. That was Brian Gutekunst. Now, to your question, where do the coaches fit in on this? I'm fascinated to see what Vrabel has to say at his next availability. I mean, that is his position coach, and certainly he's the one who probably works closest with Romeo. But then again, you'd also like to hear from Adam Stenovich, the offensive coordinator, and of course, Matt LaFleur, now that this information is out there, regarding their role in whatever has transpired here. How was the message delivered? Was anything kind of talked about maybe whatever apparent dissatisfaction he may have displayed on Wednesday prior to going AWOL? Now, all of that said, I'm sure they're thinking, much like we just talked about, we got a game to win on Sunday. They're installing the game. They're building the game plan on Tuesday. They get to practice on Wednesday and they install it like any other week. I'm not quite sure what they're expected to do in this situation. I mean, hold the man's hand. I don't. I certainly want the coaches to be responsible in their communications with the players, but at some point, you're putting together a game plan that you think gives you the best chance to win. Now maybe it's a deeper rooted, deeper seated thing that goes back throughout his time in Green Bay with Vrabel, with the offensive coaches? I don't know. Again, would love to hear from Romeo. But it's hard for me to put much of the blame on coaches when they are literally doing what they do every single week to try and win a football game. Again, maybe there's a personal thing going on there, but so far we haven't been made aware of it. What else we got here, folks? Alex, what's up, man? Is this a little soon given 2 games were with Willis? Alex, again, I don't think it has as much to do with what's already transpired during these games this year as opposed to what transpired Wednesday at practice, would be my guess. Tyler, what's going on, man? Thanks for the super chat. I hope they handle it as well as Jair's situation last year. Well, that is, like I said earlier, the precedent. They've been through this before, although that felt more cumulative as far as something that had been kind of festering all season long. Maybe this has been. We just haven't been privy to it at all. But yeah, they certainly came out on the good side with the Jair suspension. Hopefully, this leads to a similar result. Jack, thanks for the super chat, man. Hope Rome knows he's a vital piece to the puzzle. You would certainly hope so. And that's something we talked about after that first Malik Willis start in particular. How selfless all those guys were at the wide receiver spot. How much they did to ensure that the offense, was able to operate, especially at a different clip in a different way than probably normal. There was a lot of talk about how unselfish all those guys were. And then Romeo didn't show up for 2 practices. I don't know, man. I know you guys are probably hating it, but I can't help but feel very disappointed. Very disappointed, given what we have kind of gotten out there at this point publicly. Very disappointed to see someone just quit and just not show up. That's tough. That's tough to swallow. That is tough. What else we got? Eddie, thanks for being a K of the G Club member. Appreciate you, man. Screw it. Packers by 30. You know what? I like where your head's at. I'm down with that. Ryback, what's going on, man? Let's say he wants a trade. Would a team be interested in a player that doesn't come to practice because he's unhappy? Yeah, that's the other thing. I saw some of this conversation last night on Twitter after the story broke. I mean, if you are trying to angle to get your way out of town, this is a really poor way to go about it. I don't think he actually wants a trade. I think he is upset with whatever the kind of plan going forward might have been. But again, we're all just guessing on the outside at this point. We'll see. Maybe we get a report early next week that he has decided he wants a trade. We'll find out. And I think some of it could be dependent on how they look without him. If they struggle offensively and if the receivers have drops and they aren't very productive, etc., maybe he feels pretty damn good about his position. We'll see. What else we got? Carl, what's going on, man? Doubs has been pretty solid, and LaFleur has always praised the unity of the wide receiver group. Or it's just disappointing. Be a professional. Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, here's the thing, and we talked about this earlier in the stream, and I don't ever want to minimize a guy's mental health, what a guy is going through personally. But certainly, there are avenues that you can deal with that within the parameters of being a professional. I don't discount anybody's emotional trauma or inability to maybe express something through the proper channels as far as to their coaches or what have you. But man, just not showing up and not answering your phone or text or whatever, that's hard. That's a hard one. Abdul, what's going on, man? Hey, Aaron, just joined. Sorry if this was said, but what has Doubs done to act like this? What has Doubs done to act like this? Abdul, I'd love to know. I'd love to know what he's done. We don't know at this point. Abdul, thanks again. Sorry what came late. What happened at Wednesday's practice? We don't know. All we know is that he was at Wednesday's practice and he didn't show up Thursday or Friday. Now, traditionally, Wednesday is when you install your game plan. Tuesday is when you build it as your coaching staff, and then Wednesday you implement it. And if the report, which seems somewhat plausible from Bill, is that he is unhappy with his place in the offensive passing attack, and the Packers have now suspended him for conduct detrimental for not showing up Thursday and Friday due to that dissatisfaction, well, putting one and one together sure feels like whatever was presented on Wednesday at practice was not to his liking. That is just putting puzzle pieces together. FMCH. Sounds like Malik Heath's season starts Sunday. I love Malik, but I hope, this is just a blip and Romeo is back. Lucas, what's up, man? Do you think he should be more targeted? No. I think he should run whatever's called and be a intricate part of the offense. More or less, probably dependent week to week, dependent on the opponent, how they scheme it up, what the opponent likes to do. Is there a way his particular skill set and place in the offense can take advantage of that defense? Rock and roll. Then you should have 100 targets. If it's not, then you should be running 9 routes to clear things out. Like, that is part of being on the team. That's part of being part of the offense. That's just me. I'm old school, but that is just me. Tyler, thanks for the super chat. Another way I see it is after Watson's injury, all eyes went to Wicks. And with him being on the team longer, maybe it made him feel some type of way. Yeah, the Wicks thing is interesting, especially when you go back and look at that game against the Vikings, the amount of times that Love looked Wicks' way. And yes, there was a lot of buzz around Wicks getting more looks with Watson being out. And maybe, just guessing here, maybe part of that game plan that was installed on Wednesday had Wicks as the number one look in a lot of the progressions, or at least more progressions and more plays than Doubs thought was correct. Just spitballing here. Just spitballing. Our two cornerbacks last week and 2 wide receivers this week. Conspiracy, I tell you, conspiracy. Yeah, good times. And look, it's funny because I've already seen people joking about number one wide receivers not having one. Who needs a number one wide receiver, right? Well, it is fascinating to see some of the maybe growth, spurts, backs and forths, whatever, with such a young group. Because you do wonder if there were more veterans in the room when it comes to the wide receiver group, maybe this doesn't happen. Maybe there is a steady, more calming presence there to kind of soothe some of these tensions, but you got a lot of young, alpha dogs who all want to be the guy, all in the room together, all coming up together. Who knows? Maybe there's some friction there. Krista, what's up? My job sucks sometimes too, but I keep showing up. I hear you. You know what I always say? You can't really compare our life as far as going to work and things like that with what the NFL is. It's such a different entity. However, at the same time, there is the aspect of being a professional that I think applies. So in that case, I get it. Wicks got open the most, so he gets the most targets. I appreciate your detective work there. I don't think you're incorrect. All right, everybody needs to stop. I've already gotten 3 or 4 talking about trading Doubs for Davante Adams. People, they're not trading for Davante Adams just because A, they're not going to give up Doubs, and B, even if they were wanting to, they're not trading for Davante Adams who wants $1 billion guaranteed. Come on now. They traded Davante because they didn't want to give him $1 billion guaranteed. Let's just stop right now. Stop all that. He just needs A-Rod to talk good about him on McAfee. Problem solved. There you go. All right, buddy. I'm going to have to get going. I can't thank you enough for hopping on during a Saturday afternoon. Hey, Badgers fans. Big win. Congratulations. You beat Purdue. We'll be back tomorrow for Watch Party. Corey and I throwing it down with the Romeo Doubs Green Bay Packers going against the LA Rams. Should be a good time. Watch the Packers get their first W in LA against the Rams since 1966. Let's chalk it up, baby. Thanks a lot, everybody. Please do me a monster favor. Hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family. Cheesehead TV. We are devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day. Go Pack, go.